This is Tire Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We got a little bit of reviewing to do with our upcoming storm system. We're going to kind of jump right into it here. We already kind of know the situation as of right now. We have rain over the southeast. It's been raining all day, honestly. Trust me, I should know because I'm a landscaper. Got a little wet earlier today. Not too fun. But that's pretty much the picture in the short term, but we're going to be talking more about the long term. From my last video that I did on Saturday, there's been a few changes, so I'm going to go ahead and cover that real quick. Or try to cover that real quick if I can. This could turn into a long video, so just so you know, you've been warned. Buckle your seatbelt. Here we go. So here's what our 12Z Euro is looking like right now. And of course, pieces of rampant energy towards the southeast. No real storm systems over the country right now. Small pieces of energy just flying around here and there, where we could get our showers, rain or snow, and then occasional thunderstorms in certain areas. But it's not until we get towards the 8th where we start to see a little bit stronger of a storm system come in, albeit not a super robust one. A little more energy flows about, and then we end up getting more and more rain over the southeast. This isn't really a system that's robust enough to really produce severe weather. Not to mention, there's not too much cold air funneling in behind it, so we don't get that collision of air masses that we would be looking for. All that cold air is a little bit further to the north here with this polar jet. All of this is coming in with our subtropical jet that's more to the south. Move this along here. Not really a whole lot going. It isn't really until this point here where the storm system starts to mature a bit, but it's going to have a hard time drawing in moisture. There could be a little bit of rain or snow, but for the most part, showers and thunderstorms are going to be the main thing over here. Maybe a small line of thunderstorms may form. You could get a marginal risk within the next 4 to 8 days at some point, but beyond that, not a lot going there. And then the same can be said for the 10th. Before, we were actually looking at a moderately robust setup for some severe weather. That has since downtrended. And then when we go towards middle of the month, a little bit bigger of a storm system comes in. And this is where I start to have increased concern about a little bit of severe weather threat. There is a bit of a warm sector, but it's mainly like far towards the deep south, towards like South Georgia, maybe Florida, South Carolina, southern Alabama, maybe towards the panhandle of Florida. Move this along. This does drag in a little bit of cold air behind it, and this will mainly be for the Ohio Valley. But beyond that, there's not really too much to go off of here. This does look like it kind of takes a track to where it could potentially be a coastal storm. So there's one interesting dynamic there. But that's just one of many that we would need. But let's go ahead and hopefully, if this doesn't freeze. Yeah, it's frozen. All right, here we are. Now we're back in business. So that's what the vorticity on the Euro looks like. We'll compare that with the GFS here. Computer's trying to freeze on me. But it's pretty similar look through the 10th. But once we go a little further beyond that, that's where we start to get in a little bit of that model discrepancy here. GFS does its own thing. This storm system ends up becoming a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger of a trough, a little bit stronger of a storm system in general. And this setup lends itself towards more of a severe weather threat. And also, interestingly enough, it's looking like the Ohio Valley would be of a greater concern. Of course, we're getting pretty far out here, so this model run is going to have to be one that we end up reviewing over the next few days. We're about almost 7.5, 8 days out from this. But this definitely has an interesting look to it. We move this to the 14th. This is a different run from what the Euro is showing here. The Euro has this going more so towards the coast, being a coastal storm. This ends up going north of the border and drawing more warm air in as it goes, almost looking like the southeast ridge here even starts to take effect. I'm not entirely sure just yet of that, but as of right now, it looks like the south remains warm. It's going to be mainly a negative PNA pattern where the west will be colder. Uh-oh, hit the sounding button. Daggone it. Come on now, get off my screen. But roll this on to the 17th here. We're now getting past the range of the Euro. Big storm system develops here towards Texas, actually south of the border, and we end up getting a interesting look where we could draw in a little bit of rain, severe weather setup where we could even get a little bit of snow as well towards the panhandle of Texas. The GFS has really liked that run a lot as of late. So a little bit of madness going here. This also has the look of a cutoff low. No, I'm talking a little bit in shambles. But anyway, this is going to be an interesting look here. And it almost looks like there's a little piece of energy here that tries to phase with it. Of course, once we get to about 300 hours out, you can't rely on any of this staying the same for the most part. Every once in a while, you can get that. But for the most part, this has a really interesting look. But in comparison to the Euro, definitely looks a lot warmer towards the east, colder towards the west, and then this is a big question mark here. Let's go ahead and compare some temperature anomalies here, because I think that's going to be very foretelling of what may lie ahead here. We're especially looking for that collision of warm to cold air masses to find a developing severe threat. And really through this like I said, through this short term, we're not going to really see that. There's going to be pieces of Arctic air that do end up working their way into the Northeast. However, some places could even be about 10, 15, maybe even 20 degrees below average in some spots, especially over towards the Dakotas. Some spots even 30 degrees below average, which is crazy. But opposite of that, when we look towards the eastern half of the country, especially towards the Ozarks, we got plenty of places that are going to be 20 to 25 potentially above average, which is nuts. So there's plenty of energy lingering. So there could be plenty of heat lingering around. This could end up turning into a severe weather event later in the month if this air holds out, which I don't really see it moving anywhere anytime soon. But if we can see over here, 20 to 25 degrees above average over towards Texas, Oklahoma, the Ozarks, Louisiana. And this does move its way to the east. And where some concern does lie over towards the 9th is going to be towards the Tennessee Valley, towards the southeast, Mississippi Valley as well, where those above average temperatures are really going to be holding strong. Could be a severe weather threat. Again, not super concerned about it, but look how little cold air there is behind it. And that's the main thing. If I was seeing about maybe a 5 to 10 degrees below average, just a little bit further behind this, then I would be a little bit more concerned. But considering how that cold air just isn't really there, I don't really think that there's going to be too much that goes on through this week. Once we get into the start of next week, a little bit more towards the middle of the month, this is when our negative PNA really starts to show itself a little bit more. And then look at this right here. Some places could even be about 30 degrees above average, as a much bigger storm system is about to roll in. And here's a key difference right here. This is what you would look for with more of a severe weather threat. If we go back about a couple of frames here, about 5 to 10 degrees above average, and then here we go. That's interesting, because I wasn't really seeing this before before I started this video. But over towards the Ohio Valley, we're looking like we're going to be 20 to 25 degrees above average. So depending on where that warm and moist sector develops, we could get a pretty formidable, maybe even a big severe weather event. But We move this along here, and it looks like the next cold blast comes in, and it tries to push its way a little further to the east. But this is as far out as we can see on the Euro. A lot of changes are set to come with this, but some pretty big Arctic air, maybe even polar air comes in for the northern plains here. So brace yourselves up here. This is nothing new for you guys, but if you don't have those jackets out by now, get them soon. Make the comparison on the GFS, and it's going to be a pretty similar look early on, but the GFS is definitely a bit warmer. When we get towards the 8th, this warm air really starts to set in towards the eastern half of the country. We get in towards the 11th. Negative P&A becomes a little bit more pronounced as we get to the 13th. Then this warm air, these waves of warm air just don't seem like they want to go anywhere. Like they just really seem to be holding on really well. Then once we get towards the little bit more towards the latter half of the month, we still have above average temperatures that could be about 15 to 20 to 25 degrees above average over towards the southeast. I do think a southeast ridge may fall in right here, possibly. It's hard to say as of right now, but some type of ridge has set itself up. So this area will be warmer than average and potentially could be drier than average too. Move this along, and this definitely has the potential feature of a not above average system, a southeast ridge. However, there is a little wedge here of cold air that pops up, so that could be an interesting player as we get towards the holidays here again. But given how far out we are, it's going to be difficult to really hammer that forecast in. And really, at this point, I wouldn't even call this forecasting. I would call it more or less just trying to look for a trend, because runs like this don't always hang around whenever you're looking at a 384-hour forecast. It's just hard to really have a lot of faith in that. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at what our preset map could look like on both the Euro and the GFS. And we're going to start out with the Euro here. Or actually, we'll try and see if the GFS loads faster. Whichever one's quicker. But I think it's going to be pretty even here. I think we'll just stay with the Euro. Yep, Euro won that one. All right. So onward we go. Early part of this forecast. No surprises here. We're just going to zoom right through that. The 8th. 9th, small line of showers and thunderstorms, marginally severe possible there, no surprises. Small little belt of snow that develops here towards the states of Iowa, Minnesota, and parts of Wisconsin. Pretty weak storm system though, so not a lot going on here. But that weak low pressure here is going to be the key to a potential nor'easter. Because look, when we get towards the 10th here. Or actually not. Actually, I screwed that up. I got that mixed up with the storm system on the 13th. It's a lot to keep track of. Not gonna lie. But here's a little bit stronger of a storm system here. But the track is a little bit further to the south. Excuse me. Jeez. This is how you know I've had a long one. I've had a long day. There's other stuff I'm doing behind the scenes, other content for this channel and my other channel. So look forward to that. But you can see the 13th looks a little bit more robust of a storm system, more dynamic as well. Looks like we could get severe weather around here. There's a decent warm sector that develops, fair amount of cold air that rushes in behind this. So now we're looking at areas like Nebraska getting in on the winter reaction here. Of course, Iowa gets hit again, and then as we move this further and further along, this has the look of a potential coastal low. It's a nice little shield of snow that forms out ahead of this line of rain and maybe some severe storms. Can't even rule out some thunder snow given the nature of this system. I think there will be a decent amount of convection with this. Should this hold? That's the key part here, because look how far out we are. But we start out as rain in areas like New York City, Philadelphia, and then we start to push towards a wintry mix. Then eventually we go into either rain or we finish out as winter. However, I do think we're going to get some snow on the backside of this, as another low is expected to develop right here according to this model run here, even though it looks like we've frozen. All right, here we go. Starting to move a little bit more finally. And then here's our here's that secondary low pressure I was talking about. Still struggling. And just waiting to get through this last frame here, and there it is. So we end up getting some pretty hefty amounts of snow towards the interior northeast, especially as we start to work our way towards Maine. But we do have a secondary system that looks to develop behind this and bring a little bit more snow, and also become a pretty big lake effect event potentially as well. But that's what the Euro is showing us. If we compare that to the GFS, we're looking a little bit different. Set the GFS into a loop here, and for the first part, no surprises here. Oh, wait, what in the world just happened? So set this into a loop. I don't know why we got set to 384 hours, but okay. So here we are. Here's our first system. A little less robust. Not much snow to go with that either. But once we get towards the 13th, definitely starting to lean more and more towards an Ohio Valley event severe weather outbreak possible if this holds. But the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a concurrency between the GFS and the Euro here does concern me slightly. We'll have to see if that trend holds, but that's one way to build confidence, that's for sure. But of course, with this storm taking the track that it's taking with the GFS, no coastal storm, no snow for these regions. So, two outcomes, two different models. Yikes. It's going to be fun trying to forecast that. But next system comes in, a little bit more robust, right around the 16th and the 17th. Could be a severe weather event. I'm definitely leaning more towards just a heavy rain event for the southeast. And I've been seeing this a lot, where the GFS really seems to favor snow events over towards Panhandle of Texas and over towards New Mexico here. We also have a wintry mix that develops right here. So that could be interesting in its own right. This area that's very susceptible to ice storms, so gonna keep an extra close eye on that. So it tends to linger with this system too. I don't know if that's quite right, given the fact that this is over 300 hours out now. And then there's more moisture feeding in and more snow coming in from the south, even though this area isn't even below freezing. So I think towards the end of this run, the GFS started to get a little bit wacky here. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if that holds. I'm not sure if I'm buying that. So pretty much anything after the 19th here, I wouldn't read too far into it as of yet. But we'll have to see how things play out here. This is why I made the channel. So this is about the end of the video. Psych. But wait, there's more. Guess what I'm about to look at here? This is gonna blow your mind. Look at that. Because guess what? I remember making a video on November 30th, which is supposed to be the actual end of a hurricane season for the Atlantic. And then here we are on December 5th. And look, we have a new system that develops. And this has a 30% chance of developing within the next couple of days. 40% chance developing within the next 5 days. And it actually looks pretty solid on satellite here. It looks like this circulation's trying to close up on all sides, which is the minimal criteria you would need for a tropical depression or tropical storm. You want a circulation. You want a tropical depression or tropical storm force winds on all four sides. Closed low, warm core. This looks like it's on the way too. That's crazy to think about. The funniest part is I actually kind of called this a while back, because when we look back to hurricane season, was it July and August where things were pretty quiet, and I was just saying something about this doesn't seem right. It almost feels like we're going to end up getting a storm or two possible in December. It's pretty interesting that that actually ended up happening, because there was no meteorological logic behind that. It was just more so hunch, if anything else. But yeah, lo and behold, here we are. But anyway, that's gonna sum it up for this video here. I know this one was a long one. If you made it to the end especially, you're a real one. Appreciate you a bunch. Also, if you liked anything I did in this video, definitely like, subscribe, and also let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these weather systems here. More videos on the Weather Nerd 101 playlist are coming soon, and we're also going to probably start covering winter weather probably before Christmas. So look forward to that. But anyways, I'm getting off of here. Still a lot more to do with other videos for this channel and for my other channel if you want to check that out. But this has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good night. I'll see you in the next one.